And I really believe that business is done human to human, and it's about bringing humans together. And because the community is people, all you need to do really is listen to the people in the community and understand their needs.
Orlie Gruper, thank you so much for joining me on 20 Minute Leaders. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here, Executive Director of EcoMotion. The whole smart mobility space is, fascinating. There's so many advancements and there's so many things that are happening that I can't even keep track. And when I think about, where we're headed in the next 5 or 10 years, I'm incredibly excited. Before we even talk about your journey and who you are, tell me a little bit about what is smart mobility and why is it something that is so fascinating to you?
Wow, it's my favorite topic. So, smart mobility is anything that is smarter, greener, more efficient, better, saves more money, or also just improved, I guess. Something that is smarter than before. If we look at mobility until now, mainly used by vehicles. Now we're starting to see the metro in Tel Aviv and micromobility and bubble, which is via technology, and all these other things. So we're right now seeing this whole new revolution that is coming. And basically, I look at this revolution kind of like we had, the industrial revolution, and then we had the telecom revolution. And what I love about the telecom revolution, and this is what I compare it um, with in the mobility world, is that when we had the whole telecommunication era that had a lot of advancements and a lot of developing of technologies in this field, a lot of money was thrown in. In the end, we haven't seen like we didn't even understand where we're going to, and we didn't understand that we're all end up with a flat screen, right? It's something that no
Right.
one saw coming, and this is like a very given thing to us these days. So mobility for me is the same thing. There's right now a lot of investments, a lot of improvements, a lot of people are working on it from a lot of different angles. We have no idea what the flat screen is going to be, but for sure it's going to be a whole new exciting era for us.
I think that that is such an interesting analogy, this flat screen analogy. When I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, we're talking about 2004, 2005, and we're looking at all these advancements with the telecommunications. Nobody really knew that in 2006, Steve Jobs was going to go on stage and show the flat iPhone, the touch screen, and really create a whole revolution in that sense. And I think it's just inspiring to think that we don't really know what this iPhone representation is going to be in the smart mobility space moving forwards. But Orly, take me back a little bit about to your journey. How do you even get started with smart mobility? What is that trigger, and what have been some of your experiences within the space?
Well, today, I see that it goes way farther than I thought in the beginning because I was always passionate about old fashioned vehicles. I wanted a motorcycle since I can remember. And at the age of 15, when I really wanted one already and I could have it at the age of 16, I started getting lessons. Um, and my parents let me have lessons, but they wouldn't buy me a motorcycle in the end. So it turns out I had to found my own company, and I founded an electric motorcycle company. But I guess professionally, it started in the army, in the Air Force. I was like exposed to the whole aviation world. I was in the room of missions of an F-16 squad, and then a commander, of course. And I loved aviation and everything it brought with it, and how it's crazy, but we really take for granted the thing that we go into this vehicle, yeah, even if it's a car, we sit down and then we come out on the other side after just resting for a while. And after the army, I was recruited to operate a private aviation fleet. So I continued with this passion, and I did my BA in business, majored in IT, and then founded Blitz Motors. I sold my half 6 years ago. They just IPO'd last week, which is really exciting.
Wow. Congratulations.
Um, yeah, it's amazing. It's electric motorcycles, and every motorcycle that someone like got off the road, old school petrol with the whole smoke coming out type of motorcycle, and putting on a new electric green quiet one. It's like everyone sold is like it was an amazing experience for me.
I think that's
And
incredible.
then
Orly, I have to ask about the founding of Blitz of the Blitz company with the electric motorcycles. It has to be a little bit different than starting another software company, or the typical startup that you see today that is mainly software focused, with either B2C or B2B. You're here selling literally vehicles that have to be certified to go on the street. They have to be safe. They have to provide some good experience to their users. Tell me a little bit about this founding of the company and some of the interesting challenges that you had along the way.
wow, so many challenges. Um, well, I guess it started really by understanding what is needed and what exists, right? Because when you're doing a startup and it doesn't matter what you do, it's okay if you start searching and you see that um, other things exist, which are the same world, the same market. It's okay. It means there is a market. But you need to see how you do it better and how you offer something that they don't offer, right? It needs to be
Right.
um, in motorcycles. So in motorcycles, for me, it was I saw that there's like in Israel very high power but super expensive ones, and non-expensive ones, but not at all meeting their requirements of the Israeli rider, right? So they want to be on the road, they need the power, and then I went out looking for one, and we couldn't really find one. So we found different manufacturers that created different parts, and found an assembler that assembled everything under our brand and created um, this vehicle, a two-wheeled vehicle that was at the same price of petrol vehicles on the market, but still you were saving from day one, and it was high powered. So we gave people what they wanted. And regarding challenges, so many. Wow, one finding a manufacturer that would do it, that would get on this adventure. Second, to get the Israeli government on board with this, Ministry of Transportation, and then the Israeli Standard Institute, and there's just that is a whole challenge. We have a lot to go through with easing bureaucracy, and then it was creating a showroom in Tel Aviv and creating a whole um, garages network all over Israel so they could maintain the vehicle, and then creating a clientele and maintaining. The thing I loved about the clients is that they created their own bike club, like electric motorcycle
Wow.
bikers club, and really moving. Yeah, it really showed how people were connected.
I love that, and I
Um,
have to,
so
Orly. I think this is a perfect segue to the whole community scene, because your product with the electric motorcycles created some grassroots communities that started as a result of people buying into your product, the mission, and the experience. But then you went and you intentionally helped run and still running. I think the biggest smart mobility community. I think over 600 startups are involved with this community. Am I right?
yeah, over 600 startups and 12,000 community members. Because
Wow.
startups can't really grow within a void, we started a community that brings together all the relevant players. So we have industry players, investors, government entities, municipalities, academia, all in one. And yeah, it's amazing. EcoMotion started in 2012. I used to be an entrepreneur as part of the community. It started, meetups were like 15 people, and the guy they brought to talk was talking about innovative design more in 2012. We weren't really talking about the whole digitalization yet, but understanding that that's the future, and how Israel in this digitalization of mobility, we talked about smarter mobility before. So digitalization is a huge part of that, and how Israel, now has an advantage to do that. And this community is amazing. It's moving, actually. The Everyone is so engaged in creating this better future, and really good people. So it's a great job.
I love that. Orly, tell me a little bit about building a community and running a community. First, in general, the different challenges and the things to keep in mind when building a community, but then specifically in smart mobility and in a growing industry that is often perhaps misunderstood about its potential, or it's still you can consider pre-iPhone era, right? In terms of the analogy that we had before. So what are some of the challenges and accelerating factors of running a community?
Um, so community is people. That's what you need to understand. And I really believe that business is done human to human, and it's about bringing humans together. And because the community is people, all you need to do really is listen to the people in the community and understand their needs. And then, with the
Right.
power of the community and the quantity, deliver those needs. And these needs keep changing all the time, so you really need to be on top of it. We have on our team a community manager, a partnerships manager, we have an implementation manager, and yet when we meet with startups, the whole team meets with them. It's not like one person's, job, because it's really important for me that the whole team stays on top of the trends, the technology, and the needs, to hear the startups all the time, and to try and pick up, in between all these meetings, try and connect the dots. So when I just started at EcoMotion, for example, I heard a lot of startups saying, okay, now there are so many investors out there in the field of mobility. How do we know who is relevant for us? And
Right.
so I heard this a lot of times, and then I was like, okay, we need to do something. So we went into the kitchen and started cooking, a plan, and we understood in the end that we want to map all the investors out there. And now we have like a digital map where it goes according to the different sectors as we see them. So you can see really the logos in the different sectors, and then you can filter by round. So you know who's the relevant investor for you, and when you click on it, you have a whole all the information about this investor and who's the person to contact in the company. So we don't need to, connect and do intros and things like that. The community can meet each other, but it's a lot about giving supporting tools for that, and facilitating those interactions.
No, no, that,
And
that, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Tell me a little
yeah.
bit though about investments in smart mobility. Are they the same as in a regular startup? Is the due diligence process a little different? What is the thinking process when you go and evaluate a company that is perhaps doing something that the market is not yet accustomed to? There may be not even governmental support or infrastructure yet, but you're building a technology that could potentially have a positive impact.
Well, I think most governments of the world are now, you're probably talking about autonomy. So I think most governments in the world are now on board with this and trying to understand how they create regulation that is supportive and not, restraining, because it's really hard to make up rules today for something that, you'll only know the impact and deployment in a few years. So regarding investments, I think it's like many other fields. The first thing in investments is the team. So that's a really important one. It doesn't matter what field you are, the team is the first thing people look at when they put money. They put more money on the humans than they do on the technology. Because in the end, the technology is technology. It will be made by the humans creating it. So an investor wants to know, that the entrepreneurs will be able to stand back up once they fall. Will be able to, find solutions when they'll hit a brick wall, because they will many times,
Of
and it's
course.
frustrating in every domain. But that's, I think, the main focus. And there's many different, you know types of mobility when we look at it. So you have the whole autonomous and connected world, And in these like last year, so there's a lot of talk about level 4 and 5, being pushed back, but level
Right.
2, 3 here and now, and there's so much technology is needed already for these levels. So it shouldn't, frighten anyone wanting to go into this field, because there's so much more to be, created for that, and that's the near future. And also, I've seen really high A and seed round investments. So a lot of companies can really run for a while. And the other things are like mobility services. So it can be an app like Move It. Yeah, this is our mobility today. So we want to, and it could be
Right.
a kickstart shared platform. Like, we need to remember Bird and Lime and all of those were not existent like 5 years ago, right? It's like a whole new
Unbelievable.
thing.
It's
And it's
mind-boggling.
mounting
Yeah.
because we don't see our life without it now. And think
100%.
how much there is create in that, and how much there's more to optimize. And the mobility in different countries is not at all the same. Like Israel, it doesn't have the great public transportation, where other countries do. And there's advantages and opportunities in each one of those.
Right. Orly, tell me a little bit about the future of smart mobility from your take and from observing the work of hundreds of startups. What are some of the most exciting advancements tangibly that we can expect to see in our streets, on our phones, satellites, whatever it may be? How is our consumer behavior expected to change realistically over the next 5 or 10 years?
Wow. 5 or 10 years. Okay, you're narrowing it down to more like the now.
Right.
I think what we will feel in the 5 to 10 years in the shorter version, shorter term is, and I'm speaking this is short for me because it's
Right.
a lot of it happened in the past 10 years, but in these 5 to 10 years, I think everything will become more seamless.
Hmm.
We are still buying tickets for stuff. That's not going to happen anymore. You're just going to use things, and it will be added to your bill, kind of thing. Where if you hop on a kick scooter and then you get on a train, you come off, and then you get on a bus, then all of that ride will just be billed to you. You won't have to deal with too much payment. Um, in terms of logistics, I feel these 5 to 10 years. So what we've experienced in this whole Corona era is like e-commerce, yeah, like craziness,
Right.
and this affects also logistics. And I feel like logistics is going to improve tremendously. We're looking at instead of big trucks like taking things off a ship and taking that into the city, it's gonna break down into smaller packages and more urban like logistics, something that is more compatible with the city.
100%.
In Yeah, in whole, I feel the city is um, most cities are making more walkways and more bike lanes, and Amsterdam was there long ago before us, but it really shows right now that we're going back to this era, or forward to this era. Regarding autonomy, then I think in 10 years it'll be weird to drive a whole way from our house to the end destination. I can't say what level we'll be at and all of that. I always say I'm not a prophet, but I'm sure it will be weird. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that. I love that distinction, by the way, Orly, because you're not just saying that it'll be common. The fact that you're saying that it'll be weird to drive the whole way, it implies that it's not just that the people who ride the wave are going to be like the first consumers and are going to jump into like we have with Tesla today, but you're saying that our consumer behavior is going to already shift in such a way that it'll be odd to not have some sort of autonomy along your driving route. Perhaps, some people will have full autonomy, but the average person, it will be weird if they don't. Orly, unfortunately, 20 minutes go by so quickly, but I really want to thank you for your time and for your generosity. It goes by quick, right? But I'd love to ask you for the most important question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. And I really wanted to talk about gardening, but we just didn't have time. So we'll keep that for the next episode.
Yeah, 3 words I used to describe myself. Well, I guess I'm a child of light, love, and creation. That's like the 3 words that guide me in life. This is what I feel is the true meaning to everything,
Wonderful.
and what motivates me.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Orly, thank you very, very much. This was fantastic. Thank you for the inspiration. And stay safe and stay healthy. I can't wait to share this with the world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Ciao, ciao.